There was absolute carnage in Week 10 in survivor pools. The Saints, the Colts, and the Chiefs cost the survivor lives of 85% of survivor pool contestants across the internet. We'll talk all about it and get you ready for Week 11 picks coming up next. Hello everyone, I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, sitting in for Gary Kurtzman.
Michael, thanks so much for joining us. Folks, everything is epic this week. Normally we do not film this early, we're filming Sunday night, but we couldn't wait to talk about an absolute crazy Week 10.
Amazing.
And Michael, I am going to have to make an appointment on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with my psychologist because last year I picked the Saints and they knocked me out of the survivor pool. And this week, once again, thank you for the sound effect, Michael. The Saints, I can't believe it happened again. I kept saying that to the game. Look, I want to put on the board a statistic. In the last 2 years, Michael, with the Saints, when I have not picked them in survivor pools, are 20-3. When I do pick them in survivor pools, they are 0-2.
You're the curse of the Saints, I guess we could say.
Apparently so. Oh, just a crazy week 10 in the NFL, Michael.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. We need to talk about it. But maybe before we get there, should we talk a little bit about what happened to the pool?
Yeah, I was one who got eliminated, but I was by no means alone. Gary Kurtzman and his Colts got eliminated.
Boom,
but what about our viewers?
So let's see. So we started the year with 430 people, right? Entering in this week, we had 111 contestants left, so almost 26%. Of those 111 contestants, 69 were eliminated because of the Saints. So you weren't alone on that one, okay? So you should feel a little bit better that there were others.
Except that I think I was the one who encouraged all those people.
Well, and I think you're probably also to blame, right? You're like the black cat in the Giants game for the Saints. 31 were eliminated by the Colts. So Gary wasn't alone either. But we can blame that one on Gary, I guess. Although I want to get to that one. That one maybe not. I was not as impressed by that pick. We had 4 who didn't show up. I know how that feels. Didn't make picks. 2 unfortunately eliminated by the Chiefs. Another interesting game that we'll get to. And then 1 eliminated by the Giants. I'm not sure what they were thinking.
Maybe they were just thinking New York. So.
Yeah, they meant to pick New York.
I thought that would have been hilarious if someone would have put in the I'm going with New York this week.
Yeah. So that means we have 5 survivors. There's only 5 left.
That's incredible. 116 to 5.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
This has never happened in at least the 2 years that we've been running these polls of having this amount of carnage in 1 week.
So 4 of those picked the Ravens. We have Gary Reed, Insight Impayer, if I said that right, Mihai Popescu, and then Mountain Explorers by name.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was not a tough pick. I don't know what we were thinking if we didn't pick the Ravens.
Yeah,
although I'm sure Penny didn't have the Ravens left.
Exactly. That was our situation. Both Gary and I could not have picked the Ravens.
And then we had one genius who picked the Bears over our Lions. I'm sure they already knew. It looks like they knew that Stafford was out. So not a bad pick at all.
So a tip of the hat to those 5 people or anyone else who are our viewers that are in survivor pools and still available. We want to talk about Week 11, give you tips for who to pick, but we first have to debrief about what the heck happened. And I want to go through each of these games, Michael. So, Michael,
real quick, sorry, one quick thing. I just wanted to, since we said the names, let's give the shout out to, it was Tony Godino who picked the Bears. Sorry about that.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about the games.
Give Tony his due. Well, I want to talk a little bit about you first.
Okay.
So, Michael, you played high school football and beyond.
Okay.
And you now coach high school football, so you're familiar with the gridiron.
Yeah, no, I love the game. I guess I know enough to come and be a little bit dangerous and maybe smart enough to not pick the Colts this week. But I might have picked the Saints as well if I was alive. I wasn't alive, so obviously I made some mistakes.
Yeah. So your college football career?
Yeah. I had a long year watching from the bench and probably more from the couch at home. But yeah, I'm here.
But speaking of watching the game at the couch at home, we all watched that Saint game.
Yeah.
In horror. I was just wrong, folks. I am shocked at the result. This wasn't a fluky loss. The Falcons just beat the Saints. It wasn't that they had a bunch of crazy turnovers, pick sixes that going the other way. They simply outplayed them.
Yeah, that's right. It's amazing, right? So I think we can blame it on the bye week. But really, if you watch the game, and I watched
but both teams were on a bye.
Yeah, no, I know. But this is sometimes what happens, right? It's the cold team that we've seen it in the World Series before. Sometimes it's the cold team didn't happen this year that can not be there. And one team, they were both cold. But we saw, and the game was amazing. I mean, the Falcons came out and marched the ball down the field, but they only got a field goal out of it. And the Saints were marching, and they looked great, and then they only get a field goal out of it. It was crazy.
How do you explain the darn Falcon defense? They have not stopped anybody, and they go into New Orleans, hostile territory, in a dome, when the Saints have all of their stars. Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, everybody's available.
That's right.
And they don't score a touchdown?
Yeah.
Explain that.
I think Drew Brees he looked cold. So maybe he had been back 1 week since his injury before the bye. But then he comes back, and he looked after the bye. He looked like he was lost. And I don't think it was necessarily the Falcons' defensive backfield that shut him down. But what was the stat? I think I heard that it was 16 quarters. 19 quarters that the Falcons had not had a sack. Right. And they had how many this game?
6.
Yeah.
6. And Drew Brees just felt uncomfortable. Sometimes he didn't have enough time, and then sometimes he was standing back there for a while, and then apparently there was nobody open.
Yeah, no, a real disappointment for the Saints. Obviously, a real disappointment for a lot of our viewers.
So, let me ask you this question. We had the 7-1 Saints against the 1-7 Falcons. Were the Saints not as good as we thought, or were the Falcons not as bad as we thought?
Well, I do think that the Falcons are not quite as bad. Although, Ryan was still on a gimpy leg. He looked really bad.
Yeah.
So
if you told me that the Falcons were going to put up 23 points and they won 23-9, I wouldn't have been that surprised. I still would have thought the Saints would have won. The surprise was that the Saints only scored 9 points. They didn't score a touchdown.
A lot of people, a lot of the NFL, studs out there are picking the Saints to win the Super Bowl this year. I really think this was just a fluke. It's any given Sunday that happens in the NFL every once in a while. But man, it's amazing that it came. In the Saints, in the Superdome. I mean, I still can't believe it.
Yeah. So that knocked out a ton of people, almost 47 people, 37% of the people across the internet in survivor pools. But the Colts came in a close second for wiping people out. What about that game?
Okay, so I think this one actually was more predictable. And so I'm surprised that as many people picked the Colts here. Really, with Brissett going down, you had Hilton out. I think, yes, there was a recipe to beat the Dolphins, but, Coach Flores.
Brian Flores.
Yeah, he's really a Belichick guy. I can't name a single guy on the defense for the Miami Dolphins.
Because all the good ones have been traded away.
Yeah, but maybe they're coming together, maybe they're gelling. And, he's a good coach. I think he's going to be capable. I think this was more predictable. It was in Miami, right?
No, it was in Indianapolis.
Okay,
it was in the Dome.
Fair point.
They were 10.5-point favorites. Now, the Colts did not have their star wide receiver, T.Y. Hilton, and Jacoby Brissett was a late scratch. It was questionable all week when he did the scratch in Brian Hoyer. But Brian Hoyer is not this rookie that hasn't had. He has a lot of NFL.
He was bad.
He was bad. We had a little bit of a clue the week before when he threw a pick six against the Steeler defense. But we thought, look, this is the Miami Dolphins defense. So I thought the game script, I did feel a little uneasy about this game. This is why I didn't pick it. But I still thought the Dolphins were going to win. I still thought the Colts were going to win.
Yeah.
And I thought the recipe was simple. Line up Marlon Mack, run the ball. The Dolphins is one of the worst run defenses. They're at home. They stay up on top. But the worst thing that happened to the Colts was they fell behind, and they relied more on Hoyer, and he made not one, not two, but three really bad interceptions.
Yeah, he was bad, and I think that, I think I read somewhere that Coach Reich had kind of called out, or maybe it was one of the defensive players had kind of put down the statement that they were going to take care of business. And actually, the Colts were actually in this game because of the defense. It wasn't that close. It was 10-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
I mean, what a bad stinker.
So, I mean, if you're going to pretend that you're a playoff team, you've got to have a better performance like that. And you wonder whether the Colts can even think about the playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
Let's talk about the last game.
That's fitting.
The Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs. We got word a week before, the day before, that Pat Mahomes was going to play.
Yeah.
It was in Tennessee, but two of our viewers thought they were going to win. I thought they were going to win behind Pat Mahomes. What happened? Another upset.
This was a great game. I mean, this is probably the most fun game to watch. I think Mahomes had over 440 yards passing, so he was himself. Yeah. Tyreek Hill had over 150 yards receiving. He was himself. Kelsey got his touchdown. Really, it wasn't the Chiefs not executing. But you know what it was? It's really not that hard. Andy Reid is an offensive guy. He has not built the defensive up. And that's exactly what happened. They just can't shut down. And we saw it with the Colts. The Colts beat the Chiefs with a very similar recipe.
On the ground, simply running the ball. And I'll give Tennessee a lot of credit. Even when they fell behind, they still committed to run the ball.
Right.
And they were able to do it successfully. Henry just had a huge game
180 yards on the ground, 2 Ds.
Yeah, so...
phenomenal. And Tannehill made some really nice throws late in the game. He looks good. I mean, what a great decision to put Mariota down and go with Tannehill.
So is Kansas City not a serious Super Bowl contender?
Well, I think defense wins championships. We've seen what's happened to Andy Reid's teams in the past. They're going to make the playoffs. They may win a game or two in the playoffs, but if they don't figure out this defense, good luck.
Okay, so, all right. Whew. Got a little bit out.
We're down
That's
to 5.
week 10.
5 contestants. It's amazing.
Yes.
So you're not alone.
Yeah, well,
I know. Your sadness, you're not the only one.
Yeah, well, I'm still going to see my psychiatrist because I cannot believe that 2 years in a row the Saints have knocked me out. Let's still, there are people who are watching who might still be in another pool.
In other survivor pools. Not ours.
And let's give them a little bit of analysis for week 11. What are the top games we want to talk about? All right, there's 5 games we want to take a close look at that we think are possible picks for week 11. So we'll start with the biggest favorite on the board is San Francisco at home, 11.5 over Arizona. Minnesota is also at home, 10.5 over Denver. The Oakland Raiders are at home, and 8.5 over Cincinnati. Buffalo travels to Miami, yet they're a little more than a touchdown favorite, and Carolina is 6.5-point favorites at home against those surprising Atlanta Falcons. All right.
I think there's one other game. There's one other game, right?
Well, those are the ones.
Isn't the Saints? Don't they have a nice game against the...
shut the hell up.
I don't really want to talk about the Saints, but since you brought them up, they are 5-point favorites over Tampa Bay. This is the exact game they got eliminated on last year. If I was in the spread, if I was in the pool, I would not touch this game for many reasons. The Saints aren't at home. Not that that matters when I pick them. But they're playing Tampa Bay, who's up and down. No, I wouldn't pick this game. But thank you for bringing it up. Let's talk about Carolina. Carolina is a 6.5-point favorite over the freaking Atlanta Falcons. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time analyzing this. Despite the Falcons playing well against the Saints, I do not think they'll win this game against Carolina. Who knows? Maybe they will. Doesn't matter. The only thing that matters with this game is week 13. Carolina is playing Washington.
Yeah, save it. Right, save it.
Washington is having a competition with Cincinnati for who the worst team in the NFL is, especially for the rest of the year. Playing rookie QBs, it's just not going to work. So I'm confident in saying save Carolina.
Yeah, and I think what I'll add to that is intra-division games, right? Even the game you didn't want to touch, right? Intra-division games, which is what happened this week. you never know. Even with who's at home, even with C-Mac and DJ Moore playing well, Allen figuring out that offense, I think you just got to be careful with these interdivision games.
All right. The other game that we're going to talk about is Buffalo 7.5-point favorites at Miami. You know, Michael, this Buffalo team is a paper tiger. I am just not impressed. I'm not impressed. They have 6 wins, but 5 of those wins have been against the New York Giants, the New York Jets, the Dolphins, the Redskins, and the Bengals. Who has done their scheduling?
That must be nice, huh?
I don't think they didn't look that great last week against the Browns, and more importantly, they didn't look that great when they played the Dolphins last time.
Yeah,
that was a 3-point. Yeah, it was a 3-point game. Yes, I know they won by 10, but within just the last minute, they returned an interception for a touchdown where Miami was trying to drive to tie the game. So that game could have gone either way. Now they're going back to Miami. Miami is absolutely playing better ball. Do I think Miami's going to win? No, I think Buffalo should pull this game out. But would I put Buffalo as my pick to put my survivor life on when I have these other games? Absolutely not.
No, and Buffalo has Denver week 12. They have the Jets at home week 17. That's an interdivision game, but I think you can save them for week 12 against Denver at home. I wouldn't go with them on the road. I think Josh Allen's good. I think Singletary's looking great, but Fitzpatrick can do magic, right? So I wouldn't touch this game either.
That team believes in Fitzpatrick, and Fitzpatrick believes in the team, meaning he is such a competitor. Yeah, he'll make mistakes, but he usually can bounce back.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't touch this game.
All right.
So next up, we have Oakland against Cincinnati at home. Oakland's at home.
Yeah.
I like this game. I'm a Raiders fan, so I'm very careful to pick my Raiders team.
Sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here.
So I'm getting tired of all. 2 weeks in a row, I got a Raider fan next to me, just as crazy as a Niner fan that I always have to deal with. So let's talk about your Raiders before we get in. What's going on? A lot of people didn't expect a lot from them this year, but they've done pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, their defense needs a lot of work, right? I mean, the defense isn't there yet, but Gruden, God love him, I think he's actually got something going. He knows how to game plan. He knows the league well, right? He's been watching it from the commentator spot for a few years now, and so he knows how to adjust. He's got Carr going. I mean, look at the love. Did you watch the game? Did you see Carr talking to the announcer at the end of the game? That team really has something going, and Cincinnati stinks.
Oh yeah, well, we'll get to Cincinnati in a minute, but I really do have to give your Raiders credit. I mean, I don't think many people expected much from them in the preseason. And then you lose Antonio Brown, who you build the team around. And how awesome has your Josh Jacobs, as well as your tight end, Waller.
Yeah, and even the offensive line is kind of coming together a little bit. I just think that they're gelling right now. Cincinnati is just really bad, and so I think this is an easy pick. And plus the Raiders, what do they have left on the schedule? They got a tough schedule left.
They have basically zero future value.
So to me, this is a no-brainer. I mean, unless there's something else that you really like, this is a really good pick and someone you're not going to waste.
Cincinnati. Well, let's talk about Cincinnati. I mean, let's go through their high points first.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is they have Joe Mixon, a talent, and the poor guy. I mean, he has no offensive line to run around. Their defense is just atrocious. And the one thing that they had going that I thought that at least they could put some points on the board behind Andy Dalton, but I understand they don't care about this season anymore. In fact, they would love to go winless to get that number one pick.
I think that's what's happened.
But they've now committed to Ryan Finley, and I watched that Raven game. I mean, 2 terrible interceptions that were pick six, where he zoned in on a guy, and they would be able to tell. Look, the Bengals are 0-9. Okay, and they've averaged in their 9 losses a deficit of 14 points. So they've been blown out of a number of games. I have absolutely no confidence in this team.
Yeah, first-year coach Zach Taylor, I think he's looking for a good pick. You know, they don't know what's going to happen with A.J. Green. I know he's, you know, looking for a long-term contract. You know, Mixon, like you say, is really the only thing they've got going for him. I think this is an easy one for me.
So I want to make sure I'm clear here. I want you to be able to look in the camera. Are you guaranteeing someone out there who might pick the Oakland Raiders in their survivor that they will not lose at home to the Bengals?
No, I saw what happened to John last week when he gave a guarantee. I don't give such things. Plus, it's my team, the Raiders. But I think this is an easy pick, Eric.
Okay. All right.
I want to come back at some point. I think John's never coming back. Didn't he say he can't come back because I guarantee I won't come back if? Well,
yeah, I'll be just pulling people off the street to co-host the show.
I'd like to come back.
All right, so let's move on and talk about the Minnesota. 6-3 Minnesota, because we're filming this game as they are playing Dallas. They're ahead. So they're probably going to be 7-3, but we don't know because we're filming it as that game happens.
Probably
and against the 3-6 Broncos. Well, look, here's the good news for Minnesota. They're at home, and they've been undefeated this year at home. And also the good news is they're playing Denver. And although Denver's coming off a bye, which I normally do not like picking teams that are coming off against teams that are coming off a bye, like I did this past week when I picked the Saints against the Falcons. But the Saints were coming off a bye. Okay, Eric, get over it. Move on. You're on Minnesota and Denver. The therapist says, I need to get through my issues. All right, so with Minnesota, they're undefeated at home, and they play a Denver Bronco team that you might fear a couple of guys on their team. You might fear Joe Flacco, and you might Emmanuel Sanders. The problem is Joe Flacco's on the IR, and Emmanuel Sanders is in San Francisco. So Brandon Allen, who had a pretty decent game in his debut, against a very tough Minnesota team, defense in a very hostile environment in the Dome, I don't think he will have as good a game this coming week.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough to pick against the Denver defense. They're still good. I mean, their corners on Denver are fantastic. Minnesota's missing Thielen, I think. We'll see if he's back. But the Vikings are legit. Their defense, I'd say, maybe actually the best defense in the league, or one of. They're very solid on both sides of the ball. They know how to do a balanced run, pass, attack, and they have Cook, running the ball, and Diggs, at the receiver side. I think that they're very solid. So I think this is a good pick, Eric. I think this would be my second pick of the week.
Yeah, it's a racehorse for me, so I'm gonna leave it to the end and leave you guys in suspense between Oakland, Minnesota, and San Francisco. That's assuming that I had all of them at my disposal.
Okay, one last thing I want to add about Minnesota is their future value, right? So in Week 14, they got Detroit at home, and Detroit, especially if they don't have Stafford back, is a very beatable team. And then they got Chicago at the end of the season, where Chicago's probably going to be happy to take a loss. So I think you got to take that into account. That's also a home game for Minnesota.
Not a Bear fan.
No, I think they want to get a good pick, right? So I don't mind the Bears.
And I think Minnesota will probably care about Week 17. So I think the analysis is how big is your pool after the carnage that happened this week? How big is your pool? If it's still pretty big, and you think it's going to go for a while, Oakland may be a better option because they have such low future value. Where Minnesota, if you see it going potentially to Week 17, you may very well want to save them.
Yeah, and there's some good teams that we're not talking about today that do have some easy wins later in the season, but I'm guessing a lot of people don't have a lot left. So.
There are no easy wins in the NFL.
Any given Sunday.
Okay, tell us about the last game. It's San Francisco. They are at home against Arizona. Disclosure, we're filming this before the Monday night game, so we don't know the fact that the Seattle Seahawks upset the Niners.
Sounds like a true Seahawks fan there.
We can always hope.
Yeah, I'm sure Gary won't like that comment. And it's in San Francisco, right, tomorrow night?
It is in San Francisco.
So we'll see. But what? So 11.5-point favorite against Arizona. It's at home. We saw what happened when they played the first time. Yeah, it was a 3-point game. John was talking about that last week. It wasn't as close as the score showed, San Francisco had the game in hand. This San Francisco team, I'm not a Niners fan, they're legit. Right? They have a very balanced attack. Shanahan knows what he's doing. They know how to run the ball. They know how to play off of it. Now that they have Sanders, Garoppolo's going to look even better. And this might be the best defense in the league, and they know how to play it. This is not a tough pick, but there's also some future value here.
Yeah, and on the other side, Arizona, if you want to compare them to Cincinnati and Washington, look, they're better, but they're not a good team. This is a 3-6-1 team that has really struggled in a lot of games. So there's a pretty big difference in talent. They're going back to San Francisco. I don't have a lot of fear here, but the issue, like you said, is future value. Week 15, now I don't know if I should ever say something like this. They're at home in Week 15 against Atlanta. How could Atlanta upset anybody on the road? All right, but
so I think I'll just add a couple more things. So Kingsbury is just another first-year coach. I think he's figuring out. Kyler Murray is coming along. Obviously, they've got with Drake and DJ. They've got some good running backs there, but I think that this is an easy pick. I think the Niners are great.
All right, so that'll do it for the games. Let's have a summary and take a position, all three of us, for what our picks are going to be this week.
Okay.
Gary has phoned in, and he said he is going with his San Francisco 49ers.
Surprise!
He says it's an absolute lock that they're going to beat the Arizona Cardinals. I asked him if it was as lock as the Colts beating the Dolphins, and he told me.
Shut the hell up.
But anyways, all right, I have left it to the end. I want to give you guys what I think.
It doesn't matter what you think.
Okay, I got it. It doesn't matter what I think because of what I told you guys last week. But look, if I was still in the pool, which I know I'm not, if I was still in the pool, I would do something different than Gary. I would go with Minnesota. I just give you that advisory. If you're in a really large pool with a lot of people still left, I might be interested in the Oakland pick, but I'm a little more confident with Minnesota winning. And in week 14, when Minnesota had that future value, the other good games that week, and I hate relying on any team in week 17. So I'm going to burn Minnesota now.
Yeah, I think that's smart. They're both interdivision games that are in the future. But I think if Gary's going to go with his Niners, I'm going to go with my Raiders. And I think that's an easy pick.
Start, press any key. Where's the any key?
Hopefully easier than that.
Well thought out. So I think we are ready to hear from the mailbag.
Mail call. Gather around, everyone.
Well, let's see what's in the mail. What's this? A letter for me.
I'm worried about our future mailbag before we get into the past. I think our future mailbag will be something like this.
Blah, 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 blah. Yours truly, some bozo.
Oh, yeah, because what they will be saying in reality, because both Gary and I missed picks, knocking you guys out of your pool, you'll probably say something like,
You two clowns, listen to me very, very carefully. You have no idea what you're doing.
For real, what have people said in the mailbag?
Okay, so I guess we got something here from Robert Smart. He says, love your content. Would it be possible to do a special DK DraftKings showdown strategy video given this awesome matchup coming up tomorrow night between Eric's Seattle Seahawks and Gary's San Francisco 49ers? Even a special showdown segment after one of your regular videos would be amazing.
Robert, we are right there with you. We would love to do that. Unfortunately, Gary isn't available this week like he wasn't available last week. So we're not able to do it. But guess what? The Seahawks and Niners play again later in the year, again in Seattle. So I will try to dial that up. Even if there's a particular showdown slate, maybe what we'll do is we'll pick teams from that game. That would be a lot of fun. We need to have a little rivalry between Gary and I, because the rivalry in the Survivor pool is over since we were both eliminated. It's funny that it happens in week 10 after we gave the mulligan from week 1 through 9. The first non-mulligan week that we have a single elimination, we just have this devastation in the pool. But we really appreciate your guys' patronage, supporting the show. Go ahead and give this, if you enjoyed the show, give it a like.
Please.
And if you haven't yet, please hit subscribe. Help us reach our 10,000 subscriber level, which we'll do a special survivor pool. Playoff survivor pool. It's important because now, this week, this year's survivor pool, there's so few people left. But we hope you'll continue to watch. Don't forget, we also do daily fantasy football contests and shows on DraftKings and FanDuel. We hope you'll check those out. And until we see you for the preview for Week 12, we'll see you next time.
We'll see you later.